Genos and Drive Knight, the two edgy cyborgs with cool hair in the S-Class. They are both equipped with exceptional levels of firepower, gadgets, and prove they deserve the status of an S-Class hero. With the screen time the two share in the manga, and the parallels drawn between them, Genos as the inexperienced rookie, and Drive Knight as a pseudo-mentor or potential rival, one begs the question, which is the more powerful cyborg? Unlike most of my other One Punch Man versus videos, I'll be going over multiple versions of Genos as one of the core protagonists. He gets stronger as the series goes on. It's almost a meme that Genos always gets beat up then upgraded. Because of this, we'll be going over multiple versions of Genos and comparing them to Drive Knight, since we've only seen one real level of power for Drive Knight. Also, by the way guys, I was sick when recording this, so I might sound a little weird. Yeah. I think it's fairly obvious that Genos' earlier forms are literally getting turned into scrap metal by Drive Knight. By the Sea King saga, Genos was pretty clearly shown as a rival for the Deep Sea King, being able to damage him in his hydrated form and swap hands with him in his dehydrated form. This unfortunately gets power crept really badly due to S-Class rank 17, Puri Puri Prisoner. Although Prisoner gets demolished by the Sea King in Season 1, he later goes on to turn a Sea King level monster into paste, showing that even Puri Puri Prisoner had far outstripped the likes of early Genos, by the Monster Association raid at the very least. He then gets almost one-shot by Nyan, a Monster Cadre, who Drive Knight can compete with. This shows a pretty clear chain comparing early Genos to Drive Knight, with Drive Knight pretty clearly being multiple tiers higher than Genos. Considering Drive Knight can tank the same attacks that tore through Puri Puri Prisoner's chest, it might be impossible for Genos to even scratch Drive Knight. Later on, Genos receives more upgrades from Dr. Kuseno and is able to trade blows with Garo with a slight edge. The two are shown to be relative in speed, both can react to and counter each other, and Genos can damage Garo as well. Being relative to Garo is certainly a good upgrade, but still not quite enough to beat Drive Knight. This is because Drive Knight, as explained above, fights and ultimately defeats the Monster Cadre Nyan. As a Cadre and a Dragon level monster, Nyan is ranked higher than Royal Ripper and Bug God, two monsters shown to be able to tag, damage, and tank attacks from Garo as well. Garo here would actually be stronger and faster compared to when he fought Genos, due to him being severely wounded, poisoned, and fatigued by the time he fights Genos. While against Royal Ripper and Bug God, he is well rested, well fed, and received a power-up. Garo is also stated to be inferior to the Cadres on numerous occasions, once again verifying that Nyan should at least scale slightly stronger than Garo, let alone a heavily weakened version of him. Drive Knight is then able to blitz, damage, and tank attacks from Nyan, despite apparently being low on energy, and by the end is able to burn Nyan to a crisp and skewer him on his sword, showing blatant superiority in attack potency, durability, and speed to a character who already scales above Genos. Like I already said, Drive Knight would probably take Genos apart like Lego bricks at this point. This fight becomes a lot more interesting when we get to the Monster Association raid arc. After the aforementioned fight with Garo, Genos receives a new upgrade which makes him much stronger. In this arc, there are two versions of Genos we need to talk about, his base form and his 10 seconds last resort mode. For base Genos, we actually have a direct way to compare the two cyborgs, and that's how they fight weakened Orochi. By the way, in this form, Orochi turns into a jet, so for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna call him Jet-Rochi, okay? Okay. For attack potency, Drive Knight is able to clash with Jet-Rochi several times, and could cause at least some damage with his energy blasts when they connect. When Drive Knight and Genos work together, however, they can inflate Orochi like a water balloon. Now, usually you'd say this feat is sorta 50-50, however, we already saw that Drive Knight alone could not disfigure Orochi's body at all, but when working with Genos, they can literally make him look like Pig God. The only difference here being Genos. This leads me to believe that Genos more than likely has greater attack potency than Drive Knight, and contributed more to the feat overall. For durability, we find out shortly after when Jet-Rochi responds by firing an energy blast at point-blank range at the two cyborgs. Both are knocked back, but Genos sustains no damage, whereas for Drive Knight, his Bishop transformation gets literally blown off of his body. This isn't the first time Orochi had destroyed Drive Knight's armor, as shortly before this, a single blast from Orochi causes Drive Knight's flying chariot to engulf into flames and crash. Although Drive Knight himself is fine, this clearly shows Drive Knight takes severe damage from these attacks. Meanwhile, Genos, who was already damaged when he tanked this attack, so much so sparks were literally shooting out of his body. So a damaged Genos has better attack potency and durability compared to Drive Knight. But what about speed? Well, as we see, Genos is able to almost instantly appear and catch up to Jetrochi flying away from Drive Knight. He then jumps onto Jetrochi, allowing Drive Knight to catch up. Drive Knight, on the other hand, never got this close to Jetrochi during the entire aerial dogfight, which you think he'd try to do, seeing as his goal was taking a piece of him to experiment on. Drive Knight's whole goal in the fight is to get a hold of Jetrochi, but fails to until Genos enters the battle. So we have Genos even at base being stronger, faster, and more durable than Drive Knight. I don't think I even need to mention his last resort power-up, which could even fight back against full power Orochi fused with Psychos, who could cut continental discs off of the planet. Many fans like to quote Drive Knight's intelligence, perhaps outsmarting Genos, but I don't really see that. Drive Knight, even with prep, didn't instantly devise a strategy to take down Nyan. And even then, his plan was let him get close and then turn into a microwave. In comparison, Genos has some of the best intelligence feats in the series, such as identifying the properties of G4's lasers and countering them with water particles, or catching Garo by surprise many times, the guy who just outsmarted an entire squad of elite heroes. While he is reckless, it does seem like Genos has a lot more going on in the intelligence department. Many fans also like to claim that Drive Knight simply must be a more advanced cyborg because I really don't understand this, seeing as up to this point, we know next to nothing about Drive Knight. Even if you wanted to say Drive Knight is maybe more experienced, you absolutely cannot prove that Drive Knight, or whoever built him, is more intelligent than Dr. Kuseno. You literally cannot prove it. All we have to compare the two of them at this point is their actual feats in combat. And as we already went over, Genos has better feats. Perhaps in the future, Drive Knight will get some better scaling, but as of chapter 183, simply doesn't have that much going on for him. Genos is the superior cyborg. A little added point, because this came up in the recent chapter 183, but Genos fights the Forest King, claims he has enough power to take on a dragon level monster, and a lot of people will probably claim based off of this that before this, Genos didn't have the power to fight a dragon level monster, and that only now does he have that power, whereas Drive Knight did have that power as shown when he fought Nyan. I would just say this is blatantly untrue. Genos' impression of a dragon level monster is a lot higher than perhaps what is actually shown in the series. For example, when Genos is preparing to assault the Monster Association hideout and he's getting the intel from Drive Knight on the Cadres, he thinks that no hero outside of Tatsumaki and King could easily defeat the Cadres, but we saw that Flashy Flash and Silver Fang could pretty obviously just stomp them, like Fear Ugly or the Ninja Duo. So Genos could just be saying that he could easily defeat dragons now, or his just impression of dragon level monsters is off. I just wanted to nip that in the bud before, it really went anywhere.